Through the Darkness and Emmaus Road Experience. Luke 24 verses 13 to 35. The story of the two disciples on the road to Emmaus in Luke 24 verses 13 to 35 is a beautiful and powerful account of how we can encounter Christ, even when we do not recognize Him. This passage speaks to us about the transformative power of faith, the importance of listening to the Word of God, and the role that community plays in our journey of faith. The story begins with two disciples who are walking to Emmaus, discussing the events of Jesus' crucifixion and death. They are filled with sadness and despair, unable to understand what has happened. As they are walking, a stranger joins them and they begin to talk to him about the events of the past few days. The stranger listens intently and then begins to explain the scriptures to them, showing them how everything that has happened was foretold in the Old Testament. As they arrive in Emmaus, the two disciples invite the stranger to stay with them and he accepts. While they are eating, the stranger takes bread, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to them. At that moment, their eyes are opened, and they recognize the stranger as Jesus. However, as soon as they recognize him, he disappears from their sight. The two disciples are filled with joy and amazement. They realize that they have encountered Christ, even when they did not recognize him. They realize that their faith has been strengthened and that they have been transformed by the encounter. This story is powerful because it reminds us that we can encounter Christ in unexpected ways. Just like the two disciples on the road to Emmaus, we may be walking through life, feeling lost and alone. We may not recognize Christ when he appears to us, but he is always there, guiding us and showing us the way. The story also reminds us of the transformative power of faith. When the two disciples recognize Christ, their faith is strengthened, and they are filled with joy and hope. This encounter transforms their lives, and they become new people. The story also reminds us of the importance of listening to the Word of God. When the stranger explains the scriptures to the two disciples, they can understand the events of the past few days. They are able to see how everything that has happened was part of God's plan. This reminds us that when we are feeling lost and confused, we need to turn to the Word of God. We need to listen to what He is saying to us and trust in His plan for our lives. Finally, the story reminds us of the role that community plays in our journey of faith. The two disciples were not alone on the road to Emmaus. They were walking together and discussing the events of the past few days. When the stranger joined them, they welcomed him into their community. This encounter with Christ was not something that happened in isolation, it happened within the context of a community of believers. In conclusion, the story of the two disciples on the road to Emmaus is a powerful reminder of how we can encounter Christ, even when we do not recognize him. It reminds us of the transformative power of faith, the importance of listening to the Word of God, and the role that community plays in our journey of faith. May we always be open to encountering Christ in unexpected ways, and may our faith be strengthened and transformed by those encounters.